In this case, because prices were forced higher by government action, it was a non-economic.
Income has to be forced to increase.
Income should naturally go. If there was a actual recovery from the pandemic and the lockdowns, then incomes would naturally rise over enough time that it would equalize with the prices from 21 and 22, and then exceed them. So that even though the cost of a car is now $50,000 instead of $30,000,
right,
you have more than enough income to pay for it. And so we all get used to the new higher prices, and it doesn't become a major problem.
But is that happening?
No, that's the problem. What really happened was prices went up massively in 21 and 22, and incomes never caught up. It's the price of everything that went up 5 years ago, and incomes never went up enough for people to claw back.
So whose fault is that too? How do you address it?
First, whose fault is that?
Yeah.
It's the government's fault. They created the pandemic and the lockdowns, the repeated emergency pandemic measures. That was absolutely devastating. That's where really the price changes came from.
Right.
Because what happened is you had the economy starting to come back from the lockdowns, so there was more demand that was rising, but at the same time, the supply side of the economy was hindered by all those emergency measures and logistics.
So the government printed more money.
Not money printing. Not money printing. What happened was it's called a supply shock, which is an imbalance between demand and supply. So you have demand and supply that completely plummeted during the lockdowns. And when they came back, demand started to come back, but supply couldn't. It was restrained. People were home. They couldn't work. We couldn't get stuff shipped from overseas. So demand came back faster than supply, and this is basic economics. What happens when demand is growing faster than supply is? The only way to reconcile those is prices have to rise. Coming off of that, 4 years ago, where it was artificially stimulated in all the worst ways. Now it has to clear out all the bad stuff, including the stuff we're going to talk about here with fraud. I mean, fraud and government waste was a huge part of stimulating the economy, which is the worst way to try to create a sustainable economic growth pattern. You don't create growth from waste and fraud and inefficiency and unproductivity. So we got to clean all that stuff out and let the economy start growing again. It's like, how do we get jobs growing again? We need a lot of things to take place, but among them is we need the banking sector to be more efficient and actually start making loans again instead of just lending to BlackRock and the most liquid borrowers out there. We need a more efficient banking sector. We need a more efficient monetary system. We also need, like I said, we got to get the government out of the economy. The government is the biggest impediment because the government is all fraud, waste, and inefficiency.